Hey guys, Sherm here, and today I'm going to be testing the brand new Apollo Evo at Golden Max in Asphalt 9 multiplayer. Please consider subscribing if you have not already, and be sure to check out my Furum Clips channel, Furum TV channel, and Purple Team Discord. Links to all those will be down in the description, and I hope you enjoyed the video. The Apollo Evo was added in the current Wanderlust and 5th Anniversary Season update, and is currently available to get in a special event in the Wanderlust season. Now, I won't be able to get this car, as I don't have everything required for the special event, but I thought this would be a good opportunity to test it in its max free try multiplayer season and see how it is. Now, the funny thing about this multiplayer season is that the Evo is not technically even the best car in the season. The Razor Tachyon is, I would say, overall better since it is a good bit faster, but the thing is, the Apollo does have much better other stats, so I guess I can kind of understand why they put them both toward the top of the season. They kind of trade blows depending on which track you get, and depending on like what part of the track you're on, because in these straighter sections, the Razors just completely pulled away from me, but then I'd pull ahead of them around the turns and up the ramps and everything. And here, even though that Razor did pass me toward the end, I was able to beat him. Was a pretty close battle though. We also got an SVJ Roadster back there, which is also arguably better than the Apollo. And again, they trade blows somewhat well, or at least from what I could tell throughout this season. And I felt like overall, it was a quite competitive season. With a lot of good battles, a lot of good variety in the cars, and overall I did have a lot of fun with it. I do have an older video up about the Razor on my channel if you would like to check that out, and fun fact, I realized this not too long ago, but my Forza Horizon 5 video about the Razor has more views than my Asphalt 9 one. That is an uncommon occurrence, and has not happened very many times. I'm curious if that has actually happened any other times at all. But anyways, here again we are on the US Midwest, and a faster car is passing me at the exact same point that the faster car passed me in the last race. But even though a lot of the sections of this variant are the same as the last one, it is different at the end. I get so confused sometimes when driving on these specific two US Midwest variants that are so similar throughout like 30 to 40% of them, but then are very different at the end, obviously. Does that happen to anyone else? I hope I'm not the only one. There's a few other tracks that do that to me too. But anyways, here we are able to come in first place, a very close one again, but we are able to beat this SVJ. And now we're moving on to Nevada, a track where a Razor would absolutely dominate, but thankfully there were none in this race, and we instead got 4 SVJs to contend with. Nevada is one of those tracks which is weirdly both suited for top speed and not top speed cars, because in multiplayer, it always seems like the Yescos completely run away on this track. And yet, whenever this car appears in events, I mean, the Griffith is not King of D-Class on this track. It's the, I don't actually know, I think it's the Electric R, which is the King of D-Class on a lot of twistier tracks. But I just never thought of Nevada as being a twistier track. I guess it's those sections, the hairpin turns that we're coming up to, that really make the difference. That is what I would assume, at least. Here, this SVJ is able to pass me, but then I'm able to pass him again by riding on a Slipstream a little bit. That's another thing I really enjoyed about this season, is just when you have a lot of cars that are somewhat similar in terms of speed, you get these instances where everybody's just all very close to one another, and then you're riding on each other's Slipstream, and it keeps going back and forth, and you really never know what's going to happen up until the very end of the race. Ghost Slipstream is probably the most unpredictable out of any of the seasons. Now, you could argue that they're predictable in the sense that if you get a really fast car, they're probably going to win and do a lot better, and that's true, but that's in the case where that happens, where you don't have some super fast car that just runs away with it. It's a lot more even. Now, what's going to happen on Himalayas where we do have a Razor this time? Well, thankfully, this variant of Himalayas is a lot better for cars like mine, and even though these ones are able to get ahead in the beginning, they're not going to run away as quickly as they would on something like Mountain Poles. I found that one of the best ways to take an advantage of Shockwave is when going up ramps. If you're following behind someone for a long time, chances are if they go up a ramp, they might have to do a 360 or something like that, like if it's a flat ramp, whereas you will have a full shockwave bar, so you can just go straight off of it. Especially if you're in a car with a very good nitro efficiency. So that is something I always try to do in Shockwave where I can. Now, we're coming toward the end of the track here, and here I was thinking there's absolutely no way that I'm going to catch up to this Razor up there, and this SVJ might even pass me. But coming up toward the end of the race, he had to go off to the side, and I was neck and neck with this SVJ up toward the end of the race, and only by using my brake nitro trick was able to get ahead of both of those SVJs at the very end of the race and come in first. My heart was pounding after that one. I still can barely believe that happened. It was only through using the brake nitro trick that I was able to pull off that win. I mean, truly, there were frames in between, and I think if I hadn't, I would have come in second or possibly even third, because those two SVJs were right behind me. Now moving on to New York, and there I almost jumped out of the track. Thankfully, it's not quite as sensitive there as it is on some other parts of New York, and instantly making you respawn if you just stick the toe of the car outside of the track. If you're a Furum Clips viewer, you'll get that reference. Here we have an Enzo ahead of us, which is also a car that was fairly well competitive against this one, but then he randomly wrecks around the corner. I think he barely hit the edge. He was just in the perfect spot for that to be just comedic timing. Anyway, now we've got another Evo actually that is behind us, and some Razors, I believe, behind him. Now the Razors are catching up, but through this final section here, they're not going to really be able to gain that much speed, so I was not too worried. Now, there have been instances where I have messed up this final section here around this corner. I've hit the wall or something. Thankfully, that didn't happen here, even though this other Evo was riding my Slipstream toward the end. He wasn't able to pass me, and we were able to get first and second ahead of those Tachyons. And now for a final race on Buenos Aires against a few other Apollo IEs, which is really cool because this track is very well suited for this car. And that leads us to my general review of the Apollo Evo. It's very good for shorter and twistier tracks, and I'll be interested to see if it's actually able to beat the Huracan on any of them. Now, I do think this won't be king on any of the tracks, really, because since this is faster than the Huracan, the tracks that it would beat the Huracan on, the McLaren F1 is probably going to soundly beat both of them on. So yeah, well, I do think it's going to be a very good car in its class. Not probably going to be a king, and I wouldn't sweat it if you're not able to get it. That kind of rhymed, and I don't have the time. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video if you've enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt, Forza, Minecraft, and other games content. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.